Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. You can watch this program on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. That's Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This program, Front and Center, can also be heard on the following shortwave frequencies: 12.010 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.820 MHz. Join us for another edition of Front and Center with your host, Jerome Toledo. And in this edition of Front and Center, we will focus on the intellectual property. And according to the World Intellectual Property Organization, the intellectual property, or IP, refers to creations of the mind, such as inventions, literary and artistic works, designs and symbols, names and images used in commerce. IP is protected in law by patents, copyright, and trademarks, which enable people to earn recognition or financial benefit from what they invent or create. However, creative industry is under threat from the issues that surrounds the intellectual property rights, such as piracy, digital theft, among others. So what are the steps taken by the government to address these problems and issues? Let us listen to the program's interview with Intellectual Property of the Philippines Director General Roel Barba. For today's edition of Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service, we're going to have an interview with the Director General of the Intellectual Property of the Philippines, or also known as IPOPHIL. So here's the background of our interview for today. So he's a respected name in business and law circles, having had over 20 years of experience in private and in public practice. And he also obtained his bachelor's degree in AB Political Science, as well as his Bachelor of Laws degrees from the University of the Philippines. And he was the Undersecretary for the Office of the Secretary at the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, where he supervised the offices under it, namely the Foreign Trade Service Corps, the Construction Industry Authority of the Philippines, or CIAP, and its implementing boards. And he was also the supervising Undersecretary of the Intellectual Property of the Philippines, as well as the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, or PEZA, National Development Corporation, or NDC, and the Philippine International Trading Corporation, or PITC, attached agencies of the DTI. So here we are. Joining us via Zoom is the Director General of the Intellectual Property of the Philippines, or IPOPHIL. He's none other than Director General Roel S. Barba. Good morning, Director General Barba. Thank you so much for joining us here on Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Opportunity to be with you this morning.
Okay, and it's our pleasure to have you in the program. Okay, first things first, so before we delve into the main topic, so can you tell us what is IPOPHIL? What is the mandate? What's the goal of the IPOPHIL?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. Actually, the mandate of IPOPHIL is encapsulated in the word DREAM. So D stands for developmental. So aside from being a regulatory agency, we have developmental programs like the one for the world, wanna make a mark, wanna invent, wanna design, and the Youth IP Incentive Program. So our regulatory, we issue grants for patents,
Mm-hmm.
utility models, and IP, industrial design, trademarks, copyright. So
Mm-hmm.
E naman stands for enforcement. No? So we
Mm-hmm.
also have enforcement powers under the IP code.
Mm-hmm.
We were given visitorial powers. No? So A, adjudication or adjudicatory. We have our Bureau of Legal Affairs, which handles administrative cases on IP violations and oppositions and cancellation.
Mm-hmm.
M, making policy, no? As the office in charge of intellectual property, we provide the policies for the national government, including the executive.
Mm-hmm.
So yan po yung ano,
Mm-hmm.
yung five basic mandates namin
Right.
under Ray 8293
I see.
of the IP Code of the Philippines.
I see. Okay, so let's move on to the main topic of this interview, Director General Barba. So, last August, the Intellectual Property of the Property Office of the Philippines, or IPOPHIL, announced that 40 groups of and companies had joined its initiative aimed at resolving counterfeit and pirated goods in the online marketplace. And the signatories are major online shopping platform along with 29 global and local brand owners and 7 business association. And also, according to IPOFIL data, the value of counterfeit goods seized from January to September this year has reached a whopping 35.2 billion Philippine pesos, so surpassing the previous record of 26.89 billion pesos in 2023 or last year. So my question is, Director General Barba, so how the IPOFIL ensures that no counterfeit or pirated products were able to enter the country?
That's a difficult question
Mm-hmm.
because, as we all know, the Philippines is an archipelago, so it's
Mm-hmm.
porous, no? But we continue to work with the different government agencies, no? Including the Bureau of Customs, through the National Committee on Intellectual Property Rights.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we have 15 government agencies as members of the NCIPR,
Mm-hmm.
and we work together closely, meeting once a month for coordination. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I would like to give credit to the BOC, the Bureau of Customs.
Mm-hmm.
Sila yung top-notcher dyan, no, sa mga in terms of seizure,
Right.
including last year. So aside from that, locally, we also work with our friends or as from the ASEAN member states,
Mm-hmm.
no?
Right.
The ASEAN region, and we're trying to coordinate with the
Mm-hmm.
customs group there. So at least we will have a regional effort to
Mm-hmm.
combat counterfeiting here in the region. No?
Mm-hmm.
And on the e-commerce MOU,
Mm-hmm.
this was actually started in 2021 through the assistance of the UK Embassy here in Manila.
Mm.
And Rouse, the consultant, in coming up with the MOU. And would like to share that over
Mm-hmm.
the years, this has been a successful agreement
Mm-hmm.
between the online platform sellers
Mm-hmm.
and some of the brand owners. No? And based on the assessments, which was already held, I think, 3 times since 2021,
Mm-hmm.
brand owners who are signatories to the MOU are very satisfied
Mm-hmm.
with the outcome of this MOU. And this has
Mm-hmm.
been a best practice cited by TRACIT, no? The Transnational Alliance Against Illicit Trade, as
Mm-hmm.
a best practice in the region against illicit trade. And I understand that some of the ASEAN member states are already looking at it on how they can implement the same in their own countries.
I see. Okay, so we'll go deep into that, but first, uh, this one, the United States Trade Representative released its special 301 report last April, which lists countries where the United States has intellectual property protection and enforcement concerns. So, the Philippines Director General was cited for growing concerns about the manufacturing and distribution of counterfeit pharmaceutical products, though the Philippines marked its 11th year as off the U.S. piracy watch list. So, citing a study also by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development and the EU Intellectual Property Office, the USTR said that the Philippines was one of the leading sources of counterfeit medicines distributed globally. So, for this one, where are we now, Director General Barba? So, what are the ways to address this concern since we are talking about counterfeit pharmaceutical products and it involves safety and health of consumers?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. Actually, we're proud to share that we have been out of the priority list
Mm-hmm.
of the 301 USTR report for 11 consecutive years. No? Unfortunately, the one on the medicines is still present in their report, but we have already coordinated with the
Mm-hmm.
FDA
Mm-hmm.
and the law enforcement agencies, including the PNP, NBI, BOC. But they cannot categorically say that we are
All
manufacturing
right.
fake medicines here in the Philippines. No? Because according to the FDA, in fact, we have a small manufacturing capability here in the Philippines. No? That is why we
Mm-hmm.
want to attract more investments in terms of manufacturing of pharmaceutical products. No? But
Mm-hmm.
mukhang lumalabas, parang
Yes.
transshipment point tayo.
Mm-hmm.
And we have relayed that to the USTR
Mm-hmm.
for the past 2 or 3 years. No? But hindi pa rin natatanggal. And
Oh, all right. It's not.
I hope it's now the review season again, no, for this year,
Mm-hmm.
and we will continue. We will continue to refute that
Mm-hmm.
study because if you will check, the OECD study was way back in, if I'm not mistaken, excuse me, in 2010 or 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So, kumbaga, luma na yung study,
It's. Mm-hmm.
and hopefully they'll be able to update it in the soonest possible time.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So patuloy pa rin po yung paglaban natin dyan sa
Right.
mga fake medicines together
Mm-hmm.
with the FDA. They're also a member of the NCIPR, no? So
Mm-hmm.
kaya
Right.
po tuloy yung coordination natin sa kanila,
Mm-hmm.
and doon po sa amendments to the proposed
Mm-hmm.
IP code natin.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We proposed na doble, no? Doble po yung penalties
Mm-hmm.
dun sa mga magpe-fake na medicines, no?
Mm-hmm.
As it involves health
Yes.
and life of the Filipinos.
Okay. And there will be continuous coordination between law enforcement, the customs, and the IPCOFIL itself. Is that correct, Director General?
Yes, Jerome, we continue to
Mm-hmm.
coordinate
Mm-hmm.
closely since we are all members of the National Committee on Intellectual Property Rights. No?
Mm-hmm.
So itong NCIPR na tinatawag natin was created under Executive Order 736, no, of former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. Right.
since it is also a model in the ASEAN region, we propose that it be institutionalized in the IP code. So kasama po yan dun sa mga proposals natin under the revised Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines.
I see. Okay. Going back, Director General Barba. So yeah, like what we've mentioned here, 40 groups and companies had joined IPOFIL initiative aimed at resolving counterfeit and pirated goods in the online marketplace. So my question is, so how the IPOFIL addresses the counterfeit piracy issue amid the presence of online marketplaces that sells those fake goods?
So, yun nga yung sagot natin, yung MOU on e-commerce, no?
Mm-hmm.
Way back in 2021, while many have pivoted, no, to the online selling during the pandemic dahil nga bawal yung face-to-face. So, marami nang gumamit ng internet, no? And unfortunately, naabuso naman po ito, no? And I'm sure marami na biktima sa atin. Kasama na po ako dyan.
Right. Okay. So,
Kaya po, we really pushed for this e-commerce MOU, no, in
MOU.
2021. At masaya naman po kami dahil it was supported by the Embassy of the United Kingdom here in Manila. No? And sa, if I'm not mistaken, konti lang po yung signatories that time. No?
So how
Especially dun sa mga brand owners. But now, yun nga, malaki na yung marami ng sumasali
right.
dahil nakita po nila yung effectiveness ng e-commerce MOU. It's a code of practice na mabilis yung pag-react ng ating mga online sellers sa pagtanggal ng mga pages or products na counterfeit.
I see. Okay, so with that, how the piracy and counterfeiting products affects the Filipinos and Philippines, particularly the economy in general. So how does that affect?
Well, first of all, it affects the livelihood, no, of the businesses. Well, the income of the businesses and the livelihood of our creators, artists. Na instead po na motivate sila to do more work, do more creative work, it discourages them, no, to pursue. So yan po yung unang effect niyan. And secondly, it affects syempre the income and the taxes being paid to the government, no? Currently we need more income, especially for infrastructure, for health. And ito pong mga pirata na to, yung mga counterfeiters, they do not pay taxes to the government.
And and we mentioned earlier that 35 billion pesos has been we are losing 35.2 billion pesos in that counterfeit trade, right, Director General?
Yes, if natuloy po yun at hindi na-seize ng Bureau of Customs and the other law enforcement agencies, it could have affected gravely the business of legitimate businessmen, lalong-lalo na po yung mga Pilipino rin po who are doing business legally.
I see. Okay. I would like to ask you regarding this Senate bills. So that's Senate Bill 2150 and 2385. So these two Senate bills aims to strengthen the power of the 27-year-old intellectual property code. And at the same time, the Senate Bill 2385 that strengthens the fight against digital theft. So as we know, these bills are not part of the top priority bills as of now. So in IPOFIL side, so how do we make sure that the swift passage of these bills?
Well, we have been working together with the National Innovation Council because IPOFIL is a member of the National Innovation Council. And we're also working with the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Committee, or LEDAC, to consider it as one of the priority bills of the President. And that includes, aside from those two, Senate bills, it's
Mm-hmm.
also we also included the amendments to the intellectual property code. No?
Mm-hmm.
Dahil nga matanda na po siya,
Mm-hmm.
kailangan na po natin siyang i-modernize. No?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're constantly also making representations
Mm-hmm.
in the Senate so that they'll be able to fast track the passage of the bill. No? Kasi po,
Mm-hmm.
advance na po sa House of Representatives.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's now before the plenary
Mm-hmm.
and hope that our senators can act on it in the soonest possible time. No?
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, to address the gap, we signed an agreement
Yeah.
on the voluntary site blocking
Mm-hmm.
mechanism with some big internet service providers
Right. Mm-hmm.
and also the National Telecommunications Commission.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Uh, so last month, if I'm not mistaken, we issued a decision against a known pirate site globally,
Mm-hmm.
the YTS website. And mabilis po naman umaksyon, no?
Mm-hmm.
Ang ating pong mga internet service providers who
Mm-hmm.
signed the agreement with us and the
Mm-hmm.
National Telecommunications Commission.
I see. Okay, so it looks like there's a close coordination that needs to be done in this or on this part, so that these bills must be passed as soon as possible. Is that correct, Director General?
Okay? Yes, Jerome.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still positive, even if it's already election season, we're still
Mm-hmm.
positive that we can make some headway in the passage of the intellectual property code
Mm-hmm.
and the additional bills filed
Mm-hmm.
by Senators Revilla
Mm-hmm.
and Estrada.
I see. Okay. So my last question for this edition, Director General Barba. So, how does the IPO field see itself in 5 to 10 years from now?
Well, we continue to, as part of the Bright Agenda under my administration, H there stands for human transformation,
Mm-hmm.
human development. And in the advent of AI, Internet of Things, the metaverse, we should be able to train our personnel on how they will be able to prosecute applications involving those disruptive technologies. So, yun ang ano natin, binabantayan natin at
Mm-hmm.
we are preparing our staff for this kind of technologies.
Okay. All right. And with that, thank you so much for joining us here on Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service, the Director General of the Intellectual Property of it or Intellectual Property of the Philippines. So Director General Roel S. Barba. Thank you, sir, and have a good day.
Again, thank you very much.
And that concludes this edition of Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Together with our producer Erwin Peñano and technical personnel Milo Junella, this is your host Jerome Toledo. Join us again here on Front and Center. Mabuhay and love the Philippines.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.